It's Friday, and welcome to the Morning Show After Show, where we connect the dots the morning after.
And we are so happy to be discussing today episode 2, titled It's Like the Flu.
And don't worry, we will not spoil anything. We're only going to talk about episode 2. We haven't even seen episode 3 yet.
Well, I'm one of your hosts. My name is Kiyra Lynn, and I'm a member of the Hollywood Critics Association, and I'm joined by my fellow friends and members. We've got Kevin Taft over here. What did you enjoy about the show this week?
You know what I was very excited about? Valeria Golino coming back into the spotlight. I haven't seen her since like Hot Shots from like the 90s or whenever that was. So I was excited to see her as a character, and I'm excited to see where she takes the show.
And then we have Miss Morgan Rojas. What
Hello.
were you excited about the show this week?
So I really loved the dogs. Alex and Mitch brought their dogs onto set and onto the stage, and I loved it. I feel like they perfectly matched their characters too, so droopy, so prim and proper. I liked it. I'm excited to track the rest of their season.
Who doesn't love the puppies?
Right?
They have a good character arc.
Exactly.
Well, before we get into it, I want to thank all of you who joined us last week, and boy, you guys were all active in the comments section.
We got so many conversations and comments, and I would love to read one of your comments on the show next week, so make sure you leave a comment where you're watching this. And I have a few I'd like to read to you guys if you'd like to hear it.
Please.
Okay.
Read them.
Comment number 1 says, "Great job, everyone."
Yay!
This is so great. Will this show also be on the Apple TV app?
We'd love for that to
I would
happen.
love that for that to happen, but right now we are on YouTube, so you guys can keep watching.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, comment number 2. Do you think Mitch will come back?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has to,
Absolutely.
right?
He was so pivotal in season 1 that it would be dumb if he was back. What if he didn't come back?
I mean, fair question, because he wasn't in the first episode.
Right. True.
So,
True.
there is
I mean, and we're talking about episode 2. So we
Yeah.
all know the answer to this question.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So yes, the answer is yes.
I'm like, why are we hiding this?
Bring it back. Bring it back home, Kevin.
Moving on.
Right, moving on to our final comment. Kiyra, you are so much fun to watch. What a
Aw.
great team. I'm coming here for all of my morning show news from now on.
Oh, you guys, congratulations. Pat yourselves on the back. Now we're going to jump in and talk about some of our favorite moments from this week's show. Kev, let's start with you.
You know, I'm going to bring it back to the Valeria Golino part. I liked her interaction with Mitch, but I liked her standing up to that girl who just came up and wanted to give him crap, and also to make her a little Instagram moment. And I want to actually quote her because I literally was like applauding as she was saying this. So she says, the first line's awesome. "That girl was just smart enough to be stupid. She doesn't know what she wants from you. If you apologize, she says it's insincere. If you try to do good for the world, it's self-serving. If you dare live your life, the gall. If you choose to die, you're taking the coward's way out. You must live and suffer, but you mustn't do it in front of us, and you mustn't try to learn from it." And I was like, and it weirdly comes back because I feel like towards the end of that episode, Alex is starting to feel the same thing, where she goes back to that dinner and like Daniel he's like, "No, your apology is not accepted." And then Bradley's getting on her case, and there was that moment where she just lets like, okay, like I don't know what else to do. And I think she realizes like that's probably what Mitch is going through at
Right.
this point.
Well, and
because she wants to apologize, but nobody accepts it.
Exactly. And in the episode 2, they were saying an apology is just you feel better after you apologize. And it's just kind of giving you the opportunity to let go of what you caused harm to that person. So you can't win.
Right.
I like the
tough.
parallels you got there, Kevin. It's a good one. What about you, Morgan?
So actually, one of my favorite moments also was kind of in that scene in Italy, and it's actually when we first go into that scene, and it's the song, the Bing Crosby song, "Brother, Can You Spare a Dime?"
Mm-hmm.
And I love all of the music in this season so far. I think it's so great and so spot on. So I did a little research on the music supervisor, and it's this woman named Liza Richardson, who is a really well-known music supervisor and also a DJ on KCRW.
Oh, yes.
Super fun. The whole point of that song is about a man who talks back about the system and how the system stole his job and how he worked so hard to make something of himself, and he was kind of kicked out and isn't given a second chance.
Wow.
And I just thought that was the perfectly used song for Mitch and his whole story. And I thought, yeah, that was so great.
Morgan, I'm never gonna listen to that song the same ever again.
I mean, I figured there was some connection, but I didn't get that. I didn't do my research.
Yeah, no, it's great.
That's
Listen
really
to it
cool.
again and you'll be like, oh my gosh, Liza Richardson, yes.
Right.
It's like, great.
Well, one of my favorite moments is a little bit of a dark moment. It's when Corey is in that meeting with the 3 other lawyers, and they're discussing the lawsuit that's about to happen. And this kind of, and we all love Corey, but this really kind of shows you where he really stands in that whole situation when he fires the attorney. Basically for saying, like, Hannah's not here to testify. And it was just like, in his Corey way of saying, you did it, you're done, you're out, you're fired. He's fired, but the 3 of you all have to leave.
That I love too.
And it was like, he did it so swiftly, and the way that he reacted to that was so appropriate, but also just very Corey, and then was just like, yeah. I mean,
Moving on in his little Corey way.
How about you? What's another favorite moment?
I thought it was interesting when Yanko mentioned the Trump impeachment and how he thought it was a charade, whatever. His comment it's a practical comment, because I feel like part of me was like, well, I understand what he's saying, because he's saying it's like a distraction and all that stuff like that. But there was a part of me that was like, ooh, is he going conservative? And is that going to be his trajectory this season?
The funny part about it is, and we had talked about this earlier, but I didn't really catch those moments. And now that you're bringing that, I'm like, wow. And I love Yanko, and everybody, I'm like, not to get political here, but I'm very liberal, and I'm like, oh, this may sour for me.
Yeah, there was a little bit of like, oh no.
Yeah. I guess we can wait and see.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Well, especially the backdrop with COVID. And if he is going down that route of being a little bit more conservative, who knows how that's going to play out in future episodes if, anti-vax, anti-mask, like who knows what his stance is going to be when it comes down to that.
Right.
What's another
Crazy.
favorite moment that you have, Morgan?
So because I am a Chip Black fan, there is one line he says that when and if he meets up with Alex again, he's going to have words for her. And I just thought the way he delivered that line on the phone with Bradley, the camera cuts or goes down his arm for whatever reason. I wasn't sure why that was stylistically, because he wasn't making a fist or anything. He just was kind of holding the phone in one hand and his other hand was just exposed. But he said, if I talk to Alex again, I will have words.
Oh, but the funny part about it was like when I was wanting him to say something other than that. I wanted him to get like angry. I wanted to I wanted to have a reason to. He has every reason to be pissed at Alex, and I want him to say that beep, 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 and he didn't do it.
Right, and the words he had at the end of the episode were, okay, when do I start? Like, oh, Chip, no, that's not, you weren't that tough. Like, are those the words you were gonna say? I don't think so. But yeah, that was just an interesting moment that stuck out to me.
Well, I really liked seeing Bradley sit with her agents and management, and basically sitting there. It was very. It reminded me very much of the episode in season 1 where Alex is sitting at the table and she's being reprimanded. She sits there and she picks up the glass of water and she basically commands the room and says, I'm the boss.
Yep.
And this for me was Bradley's moment with her agents basically saying, no, I'm the boss. This is my time. You work for me. Mm-hmm. And something I noticed, and I wanted to know if you guys noticed, has Bradley lost her accent?
I feel like it comes and goes because some words I feel have a little bit of a twang to them.
But the twang is almost like I have to listen for it.
Yeah, it's not as obvious as it was before.
But it might have been something that it's been how many ever months, and they're probably trying to get her to be a little bit more just generic.
Yeah.
Because she's on a nationwide talk show. Although her charm is in the accent.
Yeah.
And you'd think that they want to keep that charm because that's what they're kind of promoting her as, you
Right.
know.
So the funny part about it is in the scene, it was like that was a moment where you kind of heard the accent come and go, but then it was, for me, it was like her accent's almost completely gone.
Right.
What I also thought was interesting about that was that has she become Alex? She seems to be kind of morphing into her, and not, you know, in the way, in like her kind of sometimes nasty attitude. I think she's starting to realize, I understand Alex now because I'm not going to get screwed over by these people, and I need to be in charge because they're going to take advantage of me.
Yep.
Squeeze this.
Oh, yeah.
Insult.
Yeah. What was the line? I actually think I wrote it down. It was like, you know, if you squeeze them, you just wait for them to squeeze you back.
Yeah.
And she's like, ow, you know. She kind of had a temper tantrum.
Oh, for sure. She like stormed out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this
Yeah.
is, I think this may be the first temper tantrum of the season. We kind of saw a little bit of it, you know, more of it towards the beginning of season 1 when she was kind of like acclimating into the morning show. But now it's like, oh, she's, as you said, she's kind of showing a little bit of her Alex side. Well, guys, we are going into this lovely segment where Kevin gets to talk about fan mail.
I am. I'm going to talk about some mail that we've received. So don't forget, you can send the fan mail to shows@HollywoodCriticsAssociation.com. Your question could be featured here and or answered by one of your favorite actors from the show. You never know. So I'm going to read this week's fan mail question.
Ooh, read it.
So hey everyone, Allison Johnson from Portland, Oregon. She says, absolutely love the first episode this season and I'm excited to see where things go. My question for the panel is, why do you think Bradley had a sudden change in personality from season 1 to season 2? And do you think that will be explained in future episodes?
I don't know if she has had a complete sudden change in personality. She's had a
Yeah.
good, 8 months to get molded into what we see in episode 2. And we're not sure within this episode exactly what may have led her to this all of a sudden sort of personality change. But is it really a personality change? Because, you know, she has those those sort of what do they call it? The 2F, I can't say it.
Yeah.
Two beeps, Jackson, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
in a way, I feel that it is part of her personality, just, you know, turned in a different direction. You know, what do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah, I mean, I think she still is definitely a loose cannon, like she was before. Maybe there's a sense of entitlement as she gets more established in this career. Like she was talking with her team, the agents and lawyers, that she has now the budget to buy new clothes. She has more things that kind of establish her as this news anchor that can't really be replaced. As we see, she's not getting fired after being gone for 3 weeks. So maybe it's like this slight sense of entitlement that's just growing, as, you know, probably happens in Hollywood as you get bigger and more successful. It's hard to not let that go to your head.
I mean, she's like the star of the show.
Yeah.
And, you know, she started off kind of like a little bit more meek, and now she's carrying the show, so she should be a little bit more in the know, and they keep on not telling her things and keeping things, and that's just got to piss her off, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So I think she's just it's almost like she's taken that first scene we've ever saw her in when she was like, I'm exhausted.
Yes.
And now she's taking it and directing it in a different place.
Right.
I like that question. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Allison.
So Kiyra, speaking of guests, I heard that you talked to someone special.
Oh, yes, I did. And how about we roll that tape?
I am so excited because we have joining us today Mark Duplass, who plays the ever so frenetic Chip Black from the morning show. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm so excited to talk to you because you are one of our favorite characters because he's going through a lot.
Yeah, he's got some stress for sure.
Well, I'd love for you to talk to us about where we find Chip in the start of season 2. We just finished watching episode 2, but I would love to hear it from your perspective.
Yeah, you know, he had a rough run at the end of the first season. You know, he gets fired, and I think he's feeling like he would like to take a shot at living somewhat of a normal life. And, you know, he moves to upstate New York to this little town, Elmira, and he takes a a job at a local news station with talent that doesn't have enormous egos and that don't emotionally abuse him on the hour like Alex Levy does. And he's got a girlfriend, and I think he thinks maybe I can just be happy doing this. But the problem with Chip is that, he's got a God-shaped hole in the size of his soul. And I think he is torn back to the frenetic pace of UBA. And he's sort of pulled back, I think in particular, to his toxic, codependent, fascinating relationship with Alex Levy.
Why do you suppose that he does have this insane sense of loyalty to Alex? Because it's quite obvious she's not loyal to anyone but herself. And we on the show have our speculations, but we would love to hear on why you feel that Chip continuously subjects himself to this.
Well, I don't think Chip really understands that. I don't think Chip spends a lot of time going to therapy or thinking about his emotions. When you're the lead producer of a show like The Morning Show, I think you spend all your time taking care of everyone else and you don't think about your own feelings at all. But I think, my take on Chip is that he's certainly addicted to Alex. He's become codependent on her and how much she needs him, and he is addicted to being needed like that. I think that there's a part of him that his feelings for her are very confused. Some of them are platonic, some of them are, straight up brother and sister, and some of them are romantic, and he doesn't know which way is up with regards to her, but he knows that he needs her. And, I think that he's sort of become the stilts upon which she stands in the world. And if she is not on top of his head, he doesn't know who he is. So he's lost without her.
Wow. We talked on the show about how Mitch and Alex, their two, careers and personalities are so very intertwined together, but it's interesting for you to take that same sort of aspect and weave it in together with Chip and Alex. That's such an interesting perspective.
Yeah, and I think she doesn't like to admit it, but she certainly needs him in that whipping boy way. And she needs him as the person who can see all of the worst sides of her and won't leave her. And so she's constantly testing him. I'll show you this. Will you leave me? And he doesn't. And then she goes even further and deeper. And that's part of what season 2 is about, is how much are these two going to be able to expose to each other and still be able to be in some sort of relationship, as complex as it may be.
I watched some of those scenes with Alex and Chip, and it literally it gives me the willies, because it's like, oh, like how can he continuously just take that lashing? But you play it so well.
Well, it's fun to play for me because I love Jen so much, and we have such a good relationship off camera that I think, those scenes could be absolutely painful to play and watch, but I think infusing it with some of the, just natural affinity that Jen and I have for each other helps to keep it in, a more interesting space, at least in terms of, playing those scenes.
Well, you are an actor and a director and a producer in your own right. And all of those roles have their fair share of like high stress and stakes, but obviously maybe not as intense as Chip goes through in season 1. That being said, what sort of personality traits do you and Chip share?
I built a couple of things into Chip early on that, in discussions with the writers, of things that I really loved for him that I saw in my own life. I'm a big leg shaker. When I get nervous, I'm a nail biter. And I thought, well, what, let's just carry those forward. Those are going to work really, really well. I am an extremely loyal person. And while I probably won't let myself be emotionally destroyed as long as Chip does, without getting anything in return, I have been known to stick in a long time, because I'm Catholic. I was raised Catholic, and I have guilt, and I like being loyal. So there's that. Yeah. And and then I think that there is a part of me, while the environments I work in are not nearly as stressful or toxic as something like the morning news are. I definitely get off on and thrive on the fast-paced and frenetic and stressful environment of independent film and low budget television shows that I make and produce at my own company, and the problem solving of that and being thrust into it and how can we make it work. It electrifies me, and so I can really identify with that in Chip.
Well, I was wondering if you pay attention to any of the fan theories, because they're out there. And if you do, what are some of the crazier ones that you've heard, especially after your performance in season 1's finale?
I don't do a lot of that stuff. A couple of things have been brought to my attention, that there is a term out there, Chalix. It's the Chip and Alex Club, which I thought was really sweet. I am interested in people's take on Chip, because some people, depending on where they're coming from in their lives, see Chip as just a nice guy who did it all right and he really got screwed over by the system. And I understand that perspective. Then I think some other people think, well, hold on a second. He was a white male in a position of power. He saw some of these bad things happening. He kind of knew and he didn't say anything. So he is culpable and he should have lost his job, and I appreciate that perspective too. So I really like what Chip has inspired in terms of debate, because when you look at the structure of the morning show, in many ways, Chip is sort of the moral center and the voice of reason of the show. But as that first season goes on, you start to realize that, well, he's culpable too. And I like that element of it.
You could really see, towards the end of the season, how he's actually really ingesting how he is culpable. I really enjoyed that.
I like that element of it, and I think that that's something that we should all be doing right now, is taking a deeper look and not necessarily castigating ourselves, but at least looking at room for growth.
Absolutely. Well, I want to jump into, we do have a few questions that were actually submitted by a few of our audience members. We have Ruth the Scheffler asks, what were the strategies used to keep the entire team physically and psychologically safe during the production of season 2?
Yeah, I mean, the COVID protocols are extremely complex, and we could talk for hours and hours about them, but I will say that Apple did an incredible job of not only getting the right team, but spending the money. It really is a huge expenditure to make sure that everyone's safe. And creatively, it does take a little while to learn how to be loose and fun and creative while you're in an environment where you're worried about being safe for your health, but just like everything else, after about a week, you get used to it and it becomes the new normal.
Well, it's very interesting because, in episode 1 and 2, we are at the start of, you start hearing a lot of, the coronavirus talk in the news and things like that. And I think I want to know whether or not it was, how it was for you to actually still be in that environment and kind of playing it backwards. Was it strange at all?
It was strange. It's like if you actually have a broken leg and then you have to play like you broke your leg in the show. And it's like, wait, this feels very strange. I'm not ready to have the perspective to be able to play this correctly because I'm still living it. But that is essentially what the morning show, for better or for worse, has become. In the first season, they rewrote the whole thing to incorporate the Me Too movement as it was happening. And for better or for worse, they dove right into that and examined it without the benefit of hindsight. And we did the same thing in season 2, or I say we, the showrunners did the same thing. And I do applaud them for taking on these massively complex subject matters in a show that is itself trying to be big and pulpy and fun also for people to watch, and using the platform to do that. It's ambitious.
In the process of him losing his job, he kind of felt determined to really expose UBA's dark secrets.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you'll be able to tell me, but are there any other secrets that Chip is privy to in regards to UBA that have yet to be exposed?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely can't talk about that stuff. I feel like, someone from Apple will come and literally chop my head off in the middle of this interview. It will happen. It will happen. There'll be like a big pair of shears.
Questions, Mark. I have to ask you.
I'll be beheaded, for sure. No, but what I can say, that is upcoming for Chip and this season and what his journey is he's definitely going to be exploring what is wrong with him and Alex and their relationship together. And I was really excited that the showrunners decided to lean into that dynamic. That was something they pinpointed that they liked. I love working with Jen, and when they called and said this is kind of something we want to explore in season 2 is what happens with Chip and Alex after all of that fallout. That was as exciting as it could be for me.
Oh, I can't wait. I have one more question from our audience member. His name is Todd Flora from Los Angeles, California. He asks, Mark, the morning show isn't your first foray into drama, but can you give me a few sentences of what you would use to sell diehard fans of the league on watching you as Chip?
He is 180% diametrically opposed to Pete Eckhart, who is my character in the league. Pete Eckhart didn't try at anything, and he effortlessly made his way through the world. Chip tries so hard. He's so stressed and so nervous, and he can't get anything to go right. That being said, both of them really, really like to eat hot dogs.
Oh, I'm sure Todd will love that answer. You know what? We are out of time. I just want to thank you so much for carving some time out of your day to join us today here on the Morning Show After Show.
Thank you.
So, anything about Alex?
I guess the one thing I would say is you have to watch out for her. She can make you feel like you are the most important thing in the universe, so connected, and then you turn, and then she will push you off of the cliff. And she will justify it in her head too. But she is in it for Alex. Make no mistake. Everybody wants to win. Not everybody can win. It makes you competitive. I understand that, but it's different with Alex. If I ever see her again, and I'm not sure I will, I will have words for her. Let me just say that.
I am so stoked about the guests that we've been having on this show. Do you guys have any predictions as to what guests may come on?
It should be everybody.
Yes, all of them, please.
At the same time, right here.
Right, so close?
Yeah, we'll squeeze, it's fine.
So speaking about predictions, let's talk about some of the predictions that we have for, this season or maybe even the next episode. What do you got, Kev?
I'm actually curious about two things, but this new kid, Ty, first of all, why is he on the show? So I feel like something's going to happen with him, and I'm curious as to where that's going to go. I'm also wondering, because I assume we're getting into COVID times and that whole, how many ever months are going to do, but how Black Lives Matter will come into play.
Ooh, that's good.
Right.
How about you, Morgan?
Yeah, so I had a couple as well. One moment that sticks out in the show was when Corey gets a call from the head of the board saying, you need to fire Bradley. And he goes, okay, and just has that smile. And then, will he fire Bradley?
Oh, I don't think so.
I think he's just being that guy but he knows better, and he doesn't care what they ask him to do.
Yeah.
Because immediately after he got off that phone call, he ran directly to Bradley's room and was like, girl, you got to get your beep together, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then was just kind of like, he laid it out on her. And I think, maybe that was his way of being like, oh, you better watch out what's going on with you because this is it. He didn't let on that he got this phone call, but this was kind of maybe I take it back. Maybe, that was him kind of laying the groundwork of, this is it. You really need to get it together.
The fire's been lit.
Yep.
one thing that I thought was interesting is when they're at the dinner. Again, this is just, I guess I loved that scene.
You're not the only one.
They were all sitting around this circle, and it kind of reminded me of like the Last Supper in a way, because they're talking about, okay, we have to send someone maybe to Wuhan to cover this thing, and you can tell there were seeds of like betrayal from Alex coming back, like the prodigal son coming back to the family, and what is this death maybe that's probably going to happen at some point, that I think, Kevin, you talked about in the last episode, that like that could be happening sooner than later, who knows. But yeah, I know that COVID is going to be a big thing, and just the image of this kind of Last Supper for some reason just sticks in my mind as being like, ooh, this was like a turning point in the episode for sure.
Who's Judas?
Yeah. Who's Judas?
You know what? I think unintentionally, I think it's Alex, because
Me
she's
too.
the one who says, Daniel should go to Wuhan.
Oh.
Yeah, and he was not happy.
Yeah, and I mean, she was also the one who was like, you can be co-host when, in the last season. And I think clearly it's unintentional. I think she wants what's good for him because she's trying to make amends and apologize. But I think she's throwing him under the bus again.
Unintentionally.
Unintentionally.
Well, it's funny that you bring that up because it's something that I kind of feel is a prediction. It's something that I'm going to piggyback from something you said last week in regards to Daniel. You had said something like, is he going to be bitter and and either betray her? You said something along those lines. And to see that scene between Daniel and Alex where she's giving this real heartfelt apology and he just absolutely shuts her down. Like
Numerous times.
Yes. And I mean, for obvious reasons, he has a reason to be upset. He has, he lost that opportunity, and just the way that he did it. We all know that he's not the fun guy. He's the real serious one. And so it's like, oh, the quiet, serious ones are the ones that you need to watch out for. So I'm predicting that Daniel does do something. I mean, who knows what that may be, but I think my prediction piggybacks off of something that you said last week. So let's see where that goes.
Yeah, keep an eye on Daniel.
Yeah.
The quiet ones, man. Quiet ones. Do you have one more?
It's more of a question.
Okay.
I'm curious as to how Mia's going to react to Chip coming back. Because, now she has his job, and with him coming back, I just don't think that's going to be very...
I don't think that I don't think that she's going to take it well. What do you think?
I don't either. And part of me, now that you say that, is thinking, okay, so she's been picking like stories that are great and important, but kind of missing the big clues with COVID. I wonder if Chip is going to be like, oh, that's kind of important. And then maybe people don't take her as seriously because Chip is coming back and, kind of fitting back into that role that he used to have. And who knows if her just not choosing the COVID stories up front will have any sort of effect kind of on her job security or something.
Well, I see that Mia and Chip run two completely different rooms. Mia shows that she's calm and really, she's really logical and just very we'll do this story, we'll do this story. Yeah, exactly, systematic. But then if I think about the final episode where Chip is about to get fired by Fred. And, he is yelling at them. And then Raina comes in and she's like, Fred's on the phone. And then he realizes, oh, I'm going to get canned. And then all of a sudden he's like, you guys are all doing your jobs. Like, he's just like, he was yelling at them in one moment. And then all of a sudden just, and that shows like, the different ways they ruled the newsroom. And so if the last 8 months, if these guys at TMS are used to the way that, and the way that Mia is handling it, and they like the way that she's running it, to know that, frenetic Chip is coming back, I wouldn't want to come back to that sort of environment.
Maybe he'll come back different because of the last 8 months in that other network. I know you're looking at me like that's not going to happen.
I don't know.
You never know. I don't know. I'm wishing the best for Chip.
Oh, me too.
Well, you guys, it's crazy.
Morgan and Chip.
I'm sorry, I can't hide it.
She loves them.
Well, it's crazy how quickly time goes by when you're having fun, but you guys, time has come.
But I have to say one thing.
One.
Okay, because I wrote bad notes, I called Yanko.
That's okay.
That was really bad. So I'm just apologizing to Nestor Carbonell for calling him Yanko.
Okay, because
And I did think when I was reading it, I'm like, that's not right. But then I didn't know what it was anymore.
It sounds fancy. Yonko.
So I apologize, Nestor.
this is Kevin's heartfelt apology to Nestor. That being said, it's time for us to sign off, but you guys, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notifications button. Or you can tweet us also at HCA Critics at Twitter, or follow us on Instagram on Hollywood Critics Association. Thank you guys so much for joining us. My name is Kiyra Lynn.
I'm Morgan Rojas.
And I'm Kevin Taft. Goodbye.
Bye, guys.
See ya.